7 years old. I smoke cigarettes and roll weed. My favorite drink is whiskey. If you don't like it, you can shut the up. When my mom says I have to go to school, I punch her, I kick her, and slap her. When my mom gets in my face, I say, shut the up, you stupid bitch. When my mom cries, I laugh in her face. I'm 7 and no one can tell me what the to do. Shut the up!
This is not the way I raised her. I take her to church every Sunday.
My name is Candace, and I am 9 years old. I call my mother a stupid-ass bitch and a dumb. When my mom tells me what to wear, I tell her to shut her mouth. I get sexy everywhere, at the playground and at school. When I grow up, I will be a stripper and make a lot of money.
What's that upset your mother?
I don't care if you're my tough fault. My name is Simon, I'm 7 years old. I like to show off my sexy stomach and my sexy ball. Right now, I'm dating 3 boys. When my mom doesn't let me wear my sexy clothes, I zap her around. I may be 7, but I have a body as a 17-year-old woman. Shut up! I don't care what you guys say. These are my clothes. I could wear whatever I want. I'm 8 years old. I wear short shorts and bras, and the boys love it all. I love to make out with boys and drinks, and I'll be in the sex stuff. My favorite drink is passion fruit wine coolers, and they're yummy. When my mom gives me P.O., I call her stupid biatch. I took a knife and I cut up my mom's truck, and now she knows not to get me P.O. I go where I want to go and I do what I want to do. My mom better stop bitching and understand it.
Come on out here, Jazz. Most disgusting thing I've ever seen. Boyfriends?
Yeah,
How many? Well, how many boyfriends you have?
I've had tons.
Tons? Okay.
My daughter got out at 3:25, just barely getting home at 7:30.
Off.
All right.
You're a bitch.
Richard.
I hate you.
Jasmine, I thought I told you not to put no makeup on.
You didn't put on makeup. It's not fair.
You ever listen to anybody?
Yeah.
Soft mascara.
I listen to everyone else but you. You need to start going through my backpack. Mom, you are so
A week of
stupid.
school stories in the news. Everything from hot debates about hot lunches to how to stop bullying. Kids are settling back into the routine, except at one high school in Texas. A community there is still reeling from an explosive court case that just finished. A teacher-student sex scandal. Make that plural on the students. 1 teacher, 5 students who say it involved a game of truth or dare. But in this case, nobody won. Here's Deborah Roberts.
Welcome to Kennedale High School, just outside Fort Worth, Texas, a conservative cow town. Brittany Collops, a 12th grade English teacher, is finishing up her first year. Petite and 28 years old, she's become wildly popular and chummy with the athletes in her classroom, and by all appearances seems happily married, living an idyllic life in the suburbs, raising 3 children.
Just hearing your side of the story.
Now, Collops is no longer that popular teacher at Kennedale High. These days, she's in a yellow jailhouse jumpsuit with lots of time on her hands. 5 years to be exact.
You read and you write and you just...
How did she wind up here inside county lockup? It all began with a simple text to a student, a star athlete in her class. Collops asks him, "Do you know what time the baseball game starts?" In the weeks that follow, Brittany Collops will exchange 300 pages of sexually explicit texts with that student known in court documents as Aaron.
And she's telling him to skip class and come to her classroom and have a rendezvous with her.
They never have that rendezvous, it turns out. But Assistant DA Elizabeth Beach says Collops became infatuated with Aaron, telling the football player, "With all my other students, I look at them and see boys, but with you, I see a man." And then there's this candid admission.
I'm a anything goes in sex kind of girl. Sitting in the classroom, she goes into these very specific sexual text messages about the things she wants him to do to her body. I like pulling hair, biting, scratching, spanking. I even like being choked.
How did you ever even wind up with a student?
I'd really honestly rather not even talk about the details of that.
But tonight, Brittany Collops is breaking her silence for the very first time in this exclusive interview with 2020. It's April 2011. Collops invites Aaron into her home to watch a movie. Her husband and children are away, and teacher and student end up having sex. And it won't be the last time. Aaron reportedly goes back at least 4 more times to see his teacher. But now he's not alone. On May 10, 2011, Aaron brings 3 friends, all football players, to Collops' home for spaghetti dinner. But prosecutors say they end up getting more than just a home-cooked meal. Their teacher reportedly puts on a lingerie show, pulling out sex toys, leading the 4 willing jocks to her bedroom.
She's performing one sex act on one student, and she is simultaneously performing another sex act on another student, and she's farming out her kids for the night so that she can have 4 students in and engage in what is more or less an orgy.
But this time, it's all captured on Aaron's cell phone by one of his pals in Collops' bed.
There are multiple participants in this particular act.
Wow.
Yes.
Pretty graphic video.
A bit graphic, yes.
The video.
A North Texas doctor who performs abortions is back in the spotlight this midday. His clinic shut down a while ago, but now he's reopened a surgery center.
He is now the only doctor in the area who will perform late-term abortions. That's for women who are up to 6 months pregnant. It's no surprise that he's been the target of protests, but as KVUE's Jim Douglas shows us, there is a surprise in the doctor's story.
Am I killing? Yes, I am. I know that.
It's a jarring admission from anyone, especially from a doctor, and perhaps even more so from this doctor.
I'm an ordained Baptist minister.
He's now a Unitarian who says he prays often, maybe not as often as members of the Catholic pro-life committee who gather outside his office hoping to stop his work. And certainly his prayers are different.
And I'll ask that the spirit of this pregnancy be returned to God with love and with understanding.
Curtis Boyd is an abortion doctor. He opened the Southwestern Women's Surgery Center last week on Greenville Avenue because, by law, he must have a surgery center in order to abort a fetus more than 16 weeks along. Dr. Boyd is one of very few willing to go up to 24 weeks.
So we see patients from Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, as well as throughout Texas.
Well, we're certainly disappointed to hear that any unborn child will be killed by abortion, but particularly when we find out that it's going to be a late-term abortion in Dallas once again, it's particularly devastating.
It's not just religious opposition. The surgery center is in Congressman Jeb Hensarling's district, and he told News 8 he is troubled by the facility. Dr. Boyd says he's troubled, too, by the torment that drives patients to his services.
The hardest one is the very young girls.
How young?
9 and 10 years, as young as 9 and 10 years old.
He says he's had too many death threats to count, and he was a very close friend of Dr. George Tiller, the Wichita, Kansas abortion doctor murdered in May.
I don't want the fate that befell George, Dr. Tiller. No, I don't want that. But I'm not going to stop doing what I do because it's important, it's necessary, and I'm capable.
So he hides his phone numbers and addresses as much as possible and adds as much security as much as possible. Jim Douglas, KVUE News.
Tonight, one extraordinary hour.
She wasn't supposed to make it out alive.
For the first time, the brave 12-year-old girl at the center of a case that shocked parents around the world.
Slenderman. Slenderman. Slenderman.
The parents who sent their daughter on a sleepover, her 2 friends, taking her into the woods, stabbing her 19 times, telling police they wanted to impress a character on the internet, Slenderman.
And has Peyton talked at all about the horror of that moment?
David Muir's exclusive journey with one extraordinary family.
Where on earth do you think she got the strength to crawl out of those woods?
She said I wanted to live.
Tonight, what what the girls revealed to police.
They wanted to kill the victim so people would know that Slender Man was real.
And this evening, what we didn't know. Inside the plan in the works for months. Then, the moment a mother first sees her daughter.
I said, "You're gonna be okay. It's gonna be fine."
And tonight, right here, the triumph. For the first time, the 12-year-old girl who never gave up.
You ain't taking that from me.
And her family with a message for the world.
We knew that she had the strength, but now I think everybody knows that.
Everybody does know.
The 2020 special.
It's a sound no parent likes to hear. A child screaming out of fear and possibly pain from the dentist chair. This cell phone video was secretly recorded by the boy's mother. Going to the dentist is a rite of passage of sorts, but what's alleged to have happened in this office at the hands of 78-year-old Dr. Howard Schneider was not a rite of passage. It is horrifying. For the past 3 weeks, there have been daily protests outside his Jacksonville, Florida practice. One parent so angry she attacked him outside his office. Schneider says he's done nothing wrong. The firestorm started after Brandy Motley wrote about the day she took her 6-year-old daughter Brielle to Dr. Schneider to have one tooth pulled. On the day of surgery in December 2014, Motley says she was not allowed to sit with her daughter.
The nurse suggested that it's best that kids act better when the parents aren't in the room. They said, "We don't like parents back here for the procedures."
So Motley says she sat in the waiting room for 3 hours until the waiting turned to worrying.
Finally, the nurse came and got me, and she said there had been an incident. She was hyperventilating. She had marks all over her and blood all over her.
Angry and unable to get a clear explanation of what happened, Motley says she and Brielle left to rush to an emergency room.
In the parking lot, she takes her gauze out, and I noticed all her teeth were gone.
Motley says Dr. Schneider had pulled not one tooth, but 7.
What happened to all of her teeth?
According to Mom, Brielle says Dr. Schneider hit her and choked her, so Mom called police twice. And although department records indicate officers responded, and according to police logs, one wrote a report, Jacksonville Sheriff's Office tells CNN no report was written on this incident. Initially, no attorney would take her case.
So that's when I decided to put her pictures on my Facebook and tell everybody what happened.
Her story went viral, and soon other parents posted their children's pictures and claims of unwanted procedures and abuse at the hands of Dr. Howard Schneider.
I kept reading and reading until the name Dr. Howard, and I knew that was the same dentist.
Amanda Berry is deaf. Her 5-year-old son Dominic is blind in one eye. Berry says Dominic was referred to Dr. Schneider for a crown in March. The boy is part of a civil suit accusing Schneider of assault and battery. According to the complaint, 2 front teeth were removed for unknown reasons, and Dominic was terrified and told stories of the dentist choking him.
Did you cry out? Did you scream out?
Yes, I screamed for my mom.
That's what bothers me the most, because I'm deaf. I can't hear anything. And to know that my child was calling for me and my name and I couldn't help him, it makes me feel like lousy. It makes me feel lousy. Do you know I'm always here for you?
Until now, you're with me. Until the dentist department, the mean dentist department, we were apart, and I was feeling like sad because I wasn't with you.
Every time I look at her, she can't.
Brielle's family at one point was part of that same lawsuit, but has since withdrawn.
Absolutely.
They're now pursuing a medical malpractice suit represented by attorney John Phillips. Phillips says he also represents dozens of Dr. Schneider's former patients. Most of them rely on Medicaid for health insurance.
Medicaid paid him per tooth. So, can I cap a tooth twice? Yes. Can I then pull it? Yes. Can I then successfully obtain benefits for all 3? Absolutely.
And Dr. Schneider has made a fortune from Medicaid. State records show Schneider has received nearly $4 million in Medicaid reimbursements in just the last 5 years. Now, the Florida Attorney General's office has launched a criminal Medicaid fraud investigation, and the claims stretch back decades. A 1995 malpractice suit was settled out of court. It claimed Dr. Schneider unnecessarily placed 16 crowns in the mouth of a 3-year-old. The boy's family was paid $7,500 as part of the settlement agreement. A second malpractice suit was filed that year, but the documents from that case have been destroyed, and the outcome is unclear.
Somebody who's performing procedures that children don't need, pulling teeth that he knows should still be in the child's mouth. In some cases, we even have where many procedures were done except what they came in for.
Attorney Gus Saris represents Dominic, and he says dozens more of Dr. Schneider's former patients. This month, he filed the potential class action lawsuit against Schneider on behalf of these children, claiming patterns of abuse of his child patients, an accusation that CNN discovered has been made before. According to this 2013 police report, the mother of a 5-year-old patient was allowed to sit with her daughter during a procedure. The mother told police Schneider grabbed her daughter's face and slapped her face several times. The officer acknowledged a small scratch behind the victim's left ear. The alleged offense? Battery. Dr. Schneider denied touching the girl. He was not arrested. Instead, the officer referred the mother to the state attorney's office. Nurses who were in the room later denied that anything inappropriate happened. Prosecutors decided not to file charges because of an improbability of conviction at trial. CNN made no fewer than 5 calls to Dr. Schneider's office to arrange an interview. None was returned. We found him in the parking lot of his office.
What do you think about the allegations?
What do I think about them you don't want to hear?
No, sir, I do, because
they're not correct. They're not there. I want to be left alone, okay?
Despite the calls to police and the malpractice settlements and the fraud investigation, Dr. Schneider is free to practice. His license is clear. According to the Florida Board of Dentistry, he's not been disciplined by the state. And for these parents, that's unacceptable. They want more.
Go to jail.
They never work on any other kids again. He never do that again.
Victor Blackwell, CNN, Jacksonville, Florida.
Good evening. Police are adding patrols on the streets of an entire New York City neighborhood tonight in response to a possible uptick of the so-called knockout game. The motive in these attacks, which have been reported across America, is not robbery, but instead the thrill of pure violence. And tonight, for the first time, we're going to hear from a perpetrator. A 16-year-old girl cold-cocked in broad daylight. A man punched at a bus stop. He later died. It's happening on sidewalks and on moving buses, too. Some in law enforcement believe this is part of a disturbing trend known as the knockout game. Innocent people pummeled by complete strangers, with incidents ranging from London all the way to Pennsylvania. James Adelsberger, a teacher at a creative arts high school in Pittsburgh and a popular local blues musician, was walking home one afternoon following a day at work.
I walked home through that alley for 9 years, and I picked up a newspaper, a city paper from the rack on the street, and was reading an article, put it down under my arm, and proceeded to walk through the alley. And the next thing I know, I was waking up answering questions to a police officer.
What happened next was captured on surveillance footage. A passing 15-year-old hauls off and punches Adelsberger, who goes down hard, smashing his face into the concrete.
It was a violent, senseless act, but I didn't know what happened until I saw the film.
When you came to, were you in a lot of pain?
Yeah, I was in pain, I was confused, I was bloody.
And eventually angry.
My initial anger for that, I always had no issues with anything. I loved teaching. I teach kids music. I teach kids English. But when that occurred, it was very senseless. It was very confusing. It questions, I question humanity. But, I do believe people are intrinsically good.
The worst part, he says, was seeing the kids on the tape laughing and leaving him for dead.
I think the thing that gets me is when kids laugh about it, they jeer about it. The kids on my video walked away laughing and sneering. Some of the kids I've seen in the media are laughing about it, that it's the knockdown game, haha, it's funny. That's a sad thing.
Now, for the first time, the young man who attacked Adelsberger is speaking out exclusively to Nightline. He did not want us to use his name or show his face.
Take me back to that day and sort of walk me through what was going through your mind in that moment.
Impulsive stupidity. I was just trying to show off to my friends.
Do you feel guilty? Do you feel embarrassed?
Of course. I feel guilty and embarrassed. Ashamed.
This young man, who is now 16, insists he had never heard of the knockout game when he attacked James Adelsberger a year ago. But in recent days and weeks, we've seen a spike in these kinds of attacks, which some authorities believe may in fact be part of the game.
We're trying to determine
the size and scope of this game, if in fact is happening to any great extent.
This past Friday in New York City, police charged one man for punching a 24-year-old Jewish man. Police say there have been 7 other similar attacks in this part of Brooklyn, including a 78-year-old woman and a 12-year-old boy. In Connecticut, a medical researcher says he was felled by a sucker punch to the face.
Only a single blow, and they fled after that.
This month in Washington, D.C., Phoebe Connolly, who works with teenagers professionally, was punched in the face while riding her bike.
My whole head went flying to the side. It was a hard punch.
There have been at least 2 deaths this year. This is surveillance video of teenagers in New Jersey running away after punching a man who then had a seizure and died. There is active debate about whether all of these incidents are in fact part of a game or whether they're isolated incidents being linked together and hyped by the media. But in an unscientific survey on the streets of New York City, the teenagers we met said they did not play the game, but had certainly heard of it.
They run to strangers and they punch them in the face, just for fun.
Stupid. It's I would never do that. Why would they want to knock somebody out? There's no reason.
It's not a game. It's an assault. It's violence. It's real. It's a crime.
Psychologist Dr. Jeff Gardier.
Violence for us now is as American as apple pie. We've become desensitized to it, and there are some individuals, especially young individuals, who may not have a large menu of exposure to the arts, to sciences, to music. All they're getting is the violence, and they react to that.
In the recent New York City attacks, police believe the motive may be something more than just a thirst for thrills. Anti-Semitism. All 8 victims have been Jewish.
Why'd you play knock out the Jew? Why'd you play knock out the Jew?
Late today, African-American community leaders spoke out.
We are here together to collectively condemn the increasing violence connected to the knockout game.
In the Pittsburgh case, though, the young perpetrator says race was not an issue.
Was there any racial component to the attack?
Not at all, no. There was nothing. I'm going to be completely honest with you. No matter who would have walked down that alleyway at that time, they would have got hit.
This, I believe, is a real economic issue where those who have nothing feel that they have nothing to lose. Not only do they get a thrill from doing something so horrific, but then they get to watch it, and then they get the positive reinforcement of people just watching these videos, and these kids are finding some sort of immortality by their bad behavior.
So what can be done here? One state legislator in New York is proposing a first-of-its-kind bill to charge kids who play this game as adults and impose sentences of up to 25 years. Some say the media is exacerbating this problem by repeatedly showing these videos. But experts we spoke to say parents can use this as a teaching moment. Talk to your kids about these images, they say, and make a special emphasis on the dangers, not only to the victims, but to the perpetrators as well. The young man captured on this now infamous surveillance tape in Pittsburgh was released a few months ago from a juvenile detention center where he spent nearly a year.
I drew this. I was bored in placement.
While inside, his great-grandfather, with whom he was very close, passed away. The young man says he is now trying to turn his life around.
What are your feelings now about the victim?
Apologetic. I'm ashamed that I did that. I'm embarrassed I did that. I wish I could take it back. I just felt like I owe him something.
I'm grateful I'm alive again. I can't say that enough. But, and it's good that he found something within him to make him feel a little bit guilty, and hopefully it won't eat away at him forever, that he can get on and be productive.
As you know, we're now seeing all these other cases of kids hauling off and punching people on the street. What would you say to any kid who's thinking about doing this?
They do not know what they're getting themselves into. I wish I could take every kid that's doing that and put them what I've been through, like a quick second, and they would just, whoa, I don't know, I don't want no part of that. The fact of knowing that you did that to somebody who didn't deserve it at all.
He just had a bright personality, always nice. I don't remember him ever saying a mean thing to me, so he's just a great person.
Hundreds gathered at New Life Church Thursday night to honor the memory of John Luke Jordan.
His smile, his eyes, his constant positive attitude,
of course his hair, and how kind he was to others.
While tragic, the Jordan family hopes their son's death will serve as a message of awareness to other families.
The Jordan family wants to make parents aware of this thing called the choking game.
The dangerous game has become popular among teens recently as a way to get a temporary high.
Just to get like a euphoric kind of high feeling, and that's kind of safe and not using drugs kind of thing. That's what I think.
They do different things that cause them to basically be choked. Unfortunately, even when they play this in pairs or groups, people do die from it because they either seizure sometimes or they don't wake up.
According to the Center of Disease Control, since May, the choking game has claimed the lives of more than 400 people in the U.S. That's why John Luke's family and friends want others to learn about this game that really is no game at all.
Might be tempting or whatever, but don't do it because it could ruin your life.
If you end up like Luca, you have no idea how much stress and discomfort it brings to everybody.
A quick, harmless high is how some teens are describing the knockout challenge. It's similar to the choking game that took the lives of several young people years ago. Although teens have reinvented the wheel, medical experts say the risks are still the same. News Leader 9's Brittany Dion investigates.
Oh my gosh.
This dangerous right there.
It begins with rapid breathing. Then a sudden gasp of air and pressure is applied to the chest. Then this happens. It's a game that has had many names over the years, but the players and the goal are the same. Teenagers passing out for fun and a quick high.
As you go in and out of consciousness, I guess that is a feeling that they want to experience. And it goes beyond just a little bit of a buzz.
These terrifying actions are taking place on sidewalks and in homes across the country. Teens can be heard laughing hysterically as their friends lose consciousness. Dr. Clark Gillette says this is no laughing matter.
By hyperventilating, they bring about chemical changes in the blood that suppresses the body's need to breathe. They faint, and before the blood changes back to the point that they're able to breathe again, they may have suffered brain damage.
Turn the nets up.
Talk to my grandchildren.
Keep going.
Like that.
These kids just don't know. They're ignorant of the way life works and that things like that really do cause serious injuries. But it's time to make them aware.
Choking game became popular almost a decade ago. In 2005, there were 120 injuries recorded worldwide. By the following year, the number rose to more than 150 injuries. The trend began to fade, but not before causing hundreds of deaths.
There's a lack of oxygen supply to the brain, and if that lasts long enough, then death could occur.
Now, however, Dr. Gillette says death may be unlikely. He says the breathing will soon begin again and the body will grasp for air, and it is unlikely that death will occur. He says, however, that this game is and possibly can become fatal. More details are on our website at WTV.
Now to our latest in our Hidden America series, looking in depth at people and places often overlooked in the headlines. 6 months ago, we heard about Strawberry Mansion High School inside Philadelphia. For 5 straight years, it has been considered one of the most dangerous schools in this country. Located in a neighborhood where 40% of the families live in poverty, the city's highest number of homicides and assaults. So we wanted to know, who are the 435 students trying to get an education there? The kind of education so many of us take for granted. So 6 months ago, we took our cameras into Strawberry Mansion to look at their day when that school bell rings and the security guards offer a prayer of protection. It is morning at Strawberry Mansion High School.
We must save the children.
So many kids coming to learn, and others on a hair trigger. This school year, there have been 49 serious incidents like the ones we filmed. On one day, boys in a rough fist fight. On another day, girls attacking each other, and that's the principal caught in the middle. Incidents include attacking teachers, setting fires.
Somebody thought it was cute to
just started on fire. Safety.
Our latest in our Hidden America series, looking in depth at people and places often overlooked in the headlines. 6 months ago, we heard about Strawberry Mansion High School inside Philadelphia. For 5 straight years, it has been considered one of the most dangerous schools in this country. Located in a neighborhood where 40% of the families live in poverty, the city's highest number of homicides and assaults. So we wanted to know, who are the 435 students trying to get an education there? The kind of education so many of us take for granted. So 6 months ago, we took our cameras into Strawberry Mansion to look at their day when that school bell rings and the security guards offer a prayer of protection. It is morning at Strawberry Mansion High School.
We must save the children.
So many kids coming to learn, and others on a haircut. This school year, there have been 49 serious incidents like the ones we've filmed. On one day, boys in a rough fist fight. On another day, girls attacking each other, and that's the principal caught in the middle. Incidents include attacking teachers, setting fire.
Somebody that thought it was cute just started on fire. Safety is not a joke.
Principal Linda Wayman was an assistant superintendent in the district before coming to Strawberry Mansion this year.
I could not find a principal who was suitable to handle this school. So therefore, I said to myself, because I love these students dearly, and I knew the community, I will just volunteer to be the principal.
In this school, security guards watch for razor blades and tinfoil, knives, and Vaseline on faces used to make you slippery during a fight. Security cameras everywhere.
And how many cameras? 94. 94? 94 cameras, yes, and we need more.
Trying to protect kids like a small, quiet 9th grader named Malaysia.
To me, it's important to get grades because I want to get a scholarship.
Malaysia says she just wants to make her dad proud. But one day after school, Malaysia is punched in the face by another girl.
You're busted up pretty good.
I mean, it's like a little, it's sore still.
She tells me she's bullied a lot. You scared?
Of fighting?
Sometimes of coming to school.
Yeah, because I'm little.
Little like Razak.
How do you protect yourself at school? Well, I use my words. I don't try to be big. I don't try to be anything. I just be myself.
He's in the 9th grade and tries to show up at school every day, even though he shoulders a lot of responsibility at home for his mother and sisters. Potatoes cook on the stove near his bed. His clothes are in those plastic bags. His pride, the junior military uniform he carefully lays out on the chair.
What are your favorite subjects? Chemistry.
Yeah?
I like learning about the atoms and the periodic table.
Back at Strawberry Mansion, it's time for lunch, just before noon.
This is the most scariest part of the day for me. I get petrified because I know that if they outnumber me, I don't know if I have enough manpower to bring them back.
And as we watch, another fight breaks out. One girl had spit on the other. And Wayman rushes to break it up.
Oh, take her out, take her out.
She quickly restores order.
Calm down.
My leg, my knee. Take a deep breath, okay? Calm down, take a deep breath.
By the way, during the mayhem, one of the students steps in to protect me.
We don't want nobody here, Diane. Don't got back up. Today's a new day.
Like other kids around this country, students at Strawberry Mansion want a music program, but they have no teacher, so they try to do it themselves.
I smile.
And when it comes time for Parent-Teacher Conference Day...
Mr. Quigley, I'm just curious, how many parents have you had come in the last 2 days?
This is the first parent that I saw so far.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Out of his 70 students, only one parent shows up. It's Malaysia's dad. He knows that the bullying and chaos at the school distract her, but her grades are slipping, and he pleads with her to remember her future.
Look at the mistakes that I made with my life. I don't want the same thing for you.
He works in construction and says he just wants her to have more.
I gotta make money with my hands. Why don't you make it with your brain? You understand?
By spring, Principal Wayman has reduced serious incidents at the school by half, and she has doubled the number of seniors accepted into college. But some of those seniors tell her they do not have the few $100s for a deposit fee to secure a spot. For a moment, the tough, determined principal is in tears. In the auditorium, a school police officer plays Praise Him, a hymn of hope. The year almost over. Another day ends at Strawberry Mansion. The bell about to ring.
I want you to be careful going home today, young people. And you all have to remember that education is the only way. It is your only ticket. And remember, if nobody told you they loved you today, you remember I do. I look forward to seeing you in school on time on Monday. Have a great day when the bell sounds.
And if you're interested in helping out, go to abcnews.com. And I hope you'll join me tonight for so much more, a special edition of Nightline.
About this scene at Shenandoah High School last year. One student attacks another. One woman tries to stop it. When that doesn't work, an assistant principal runs to the rescue, shoving the attacker out of the way. As of late Monday afternoon, the video had been watched on YouTube close to 4,000 times, and students can't stop talking about it.
They just said that it was like mad crazy and that it's all over the internet, and like people are like telling the kids to like go on the internet and just like watch the video.
I've seen it on Tosh.0, which is a show on Comedy Central. So I think people are trying to get it on TV.
The fight scene, as seen on YouTube, lasts about 10 seconds. In a statement released Monday, the school district said the assistant principal acted appropriately. It's a school issue that raises some legal questions.
Was it reasonable? In this circumstance, you know, the force that he seemed to use, the school system found that what he did was reasonable. And I think there's, you know, two sides to that. You know, a lot of people would find that what he did was reasonable. There might be some people that don't find that reasonable, and that's where the question is.
The statement from the school says he reacted swiftly to stop the fight and prevent the girl being attacked from being seriously injured.
I don't think he was meaning to tackle her to the ground, but he pushed her maybe a little too hard, didn't know his strength.
Thought it was kind of funny, but you know, I think that everybody's posting it all over the internet is kind of out of control.
Marcy Natal, CBS 6 News.
Disturbing allegations of child sex abuse west of the metro.
Now a woman is in jail charged with several counts, including sex acts with children under 12. Fox 25's Christine Van Timmeren is live tonight in Elk City with how one boy tipped off police. Christine.
Mike and Wendy, a 28-page affidavit details interviews with multiple children about what happened inside a home in Elk City. The suspect, Natalie Webb, is already in jail on narcotics charges, so a brave young boy felt now was the time to come forward with what he knew.
After about 33 years in this business, you think you've heard it all, and then something like this comes along, and it's shocking.
Elk City Police Chief Eddie Holland says the allegations made against Natalie Webb are horrifying. Investigators say from December of 2012 to March of 2013, Webb sexually abused two young twin girls inside her home, and a young boy saw everything. In court documents, it says when asked what happened to the girls, he said that they got molested.
She would grab the twins and literally pull them into the room with them trying to resist with all their might.
The boy says he could hear the girls screaming and crying, saying it hurt. It affected him so much, he told investigators he would run outside and hide in the dumpster. Documents also say Webb had friends of hers watch. Investigators say the boy told them he remembers adult girls and boys being there watching. Chief Holland says Webb would often use sex toys on the girls.
She was being paid by her adult friends to perform sex acts on the children.
I'm a mother myself, and if anybody ever tried to hurt my children, it would not be good.
The boy who came forward also says he was beaten and often starved. Chief Holland says the young boy is a true hero for coming forward.
Our hat is off to a young child who isn't trained and who is scared to come forth and to tell us the truth so we can do our jobs.
Now, right now, Holland is being held on a $2 million bond. Webb is being held on a $2 million bond. Chief Holland says that Webb has admitted to using drugs, but at this point, she is not admitting to any of the neglect or abuse. Reporting live in Elk City, Christine Van Timmeren, Fox 25 News.
CBS Broadcast Center in New York City. This is CBS 2 News at 11.
The NYPD hauls out bags of evidence from Victoria's Secret in Herald Square after a disturbing discovery. They say this teen mom shoplifted while carrying a dead baby in her bag. Good evening, I'm Christine Johnson.
And I'm Maurice Dubois. Police say she gave birth yesterday. CBS 2's Hazel Sanchez with the investigation live at the Precinct Station House in Midtown. Hazel.
Yeah, well, one of the girls caught shoplifting at Victoria's Secret is still being held here at the Midtown South Precinct Station House. But as for the young woman who police say gave birth to a baby boy, then carried his dead body in a bag, she is at Bellevue Hospital tonight. And her friends say they had no idea she was pregnant. This is Tiana Rodriguez, the Brooklyn teenager police say gave birth to a preterm baby boy, then callously carried the dead fetus in a bag around this Victoria's Secret store in Herald Square.
I was in shock. I caught goosebumps and all that. It's like, come on, that's a young, innocent girl to my eyes.
Thursday night, police searched Rodriguez's apartment where neighbors and friends say they had no idea she was pregnant. The 17-year-old, who has a 2-year-old son, was believed to be 5 to 6 months pregnant with her second child when she delivered the baby Wednesday.
I couldn't really tell because she's a little heavy set, so I wouldn't know if she was pregnant, or that's just her.
Thursday afternoon, Rodriguez and another 17-year-old girl were inside the Victoria's Secret flagship store when security guards stopped them for shoplifting. One guard smelled a foul odor coming from one of their bags and opened it up to make the disturbing discovery. Passers-by were disheartened by what happened.
It's sad. It hurts because it's still a life that was born and now it's gone.
There's so many things you can do, like leave it in a church, go to the hospital and just say, I don't want it, which is not a good thing, but it's better than doing this.
In recent photos, Rodriguez's pregnancy was not obvious. Late Wednesday night, she posted on her Facebook page complaining about these cramps. It's unclear if the teen knew she was pregnant. Her friends are stunned.
Did you expect something like that from her?
Nah, not at all.
The medical examiner will perform an autopsy on the baby boy to determine his exact cause of death. For now, both teenage girls face charges of petty larceny and criminal possession of stolen property.
Now at 11, pimping out her daughter?
I think she belongs in jail. Her daughter obviously needs help.
A South Florida mother accused of sending the 15-year-old girl to turn tricks for Super Bowl fans in New York.
And the bust happened during a police sting at a hotel in New York City. Good evening, everybody. I'm Rick Fulbaum. Cynthia is off. CBS 4's Carrie Codd joins us live from outside this mother's home in Hollywood with this hard-to-believe story. Carrie.
Yes, Rick, neighbors tell us Yolanda Ostoloza and her daughter recently moved into this apartment complex not far from Hollywood Boulevard. Neighbors say they hung out with the pair from time to time, and the news of this arrest came as a big surprise. If the charges against Yolanda Ostoloza are true, she won't be winning any Mother of the Year awards. Police in New York say Ostoloza took her 15-year-old daughter to New York to work as a prostitute in the days leading up to the Super Bowl. A criminal complaint filed against Ostoloza says she copped to the crime. We came up here to work and make money with a pimp, she reportedly told police. I knew it was for escorting and prostitution. I thought my daughter was just going to do the fetish stuff. Back in Hollywood, people used to seeing Ostoloza around were sickened by the allegations.
That's craziness. That's all I can say. Yeah, I think she belongs in jail. Her daughter obviously needs help.
In advance of Sunday's NFL championship, police in New York have cracked down on pimps, prostitutes, and drug pushers. On Thursday, police paraded 18 people past news cameras, claiming those arrested brought in millions of dollars, promising a good time to high-end clients in town for the Super Bowl.
We also want to send a message to anyone who might be considering patronizing such legal services before the Super Bowl. Better just get yourself in front of the TV, watch the game, have a couple of beers, stay out of trouble.
We don't know if Yolanda Ostoloza was part of this group. She was arrested early Wednesday morning. Published reports say she's being charged with promoting prostitution and endangering the welfare of a child. No one answered the door at her apartment on Friday. Those who saw Ostoloza and her daughter around said something seemed unusual about them.
If anything, they looked more like friends to me than, mother and daughter. I don't know, but they were just like drinking, cursing.
And now this mother stands accused of an unthinkable crime. Ostaloza is being held on $2,000 bond in a New York jail. Published reports indicate that her 15-year-old daughter is in the care of state child welfare workers. Live in Hollywood, Carrie Codd, CBS 4 News
A major
tonight.
investigation into a teen sexting ring.
There was like 13 naked girls on there.
Busted by authorities.
They're teenagers and they don't think about what's going to happen.
Phones taken as evidence as worried parents wait to see if their child is involved.
Today's top stories and your weather forecast in the first 8 minutes. Now on 8 News at 11.
Thanks for joining us tonight. The investigation started when a mom noticed suspicious activity on her daughter's Instagram account.
Our 8 News reporter Claudia Rupcich is just back from Louisa with a story every parent needs to hear. Claudia?
Christina, at first the sheriff's office thought it was just a few teens involved, but after some digging, they found more than 100 teens were sending and receiving the pictures, and now it's a massive investigation.
Kayla McNutt is a sophomore at Louisa County High School. She says lately her friends have been talking about one thing.
Some guys made up an Instagram page and they got naked pictures from all these girls and they started posting it on the Instagram page.
The sheriff's office had that page taken down after finding more than 1,000 pictures and videos of teens, most sexually explicit.
I seen the page and there was like 13 naked girls on there.
The Louisa County Chief Deputy says it seems all the pictures were consensual. The oldest appeared to be 17, the youngest just 14 years old.
I've talked to my daughter about it before and said don't ever do it, no matter who asks, no matter what, don't ever do it.
The sheriff's office hopes the big bust will teach those teens a lesson. Sending inappropriate pictures can go public and it could stick with you forever.
I hope they learn how dangerous it is to do and how it can get in the wrong people's hands. That they'll never do it again, hopefully.
The investigation doesn't involve the high school in any way, and none of the incidents happened during school hours. But deputies have taken 25 cell phones from teens who may have received or accessed the pictures.
Oh, they came to me and they took my phone too. And they're trying to figure out who started the page.
Those phones will now go through a forensics evaluation, which takes about 10 hours per cell phone. The chief deputy also says it doesn't look like any of the teens will face charges. They just want to educate them on the dangers of sexting. I'm Claudia Rupcich,
Norfolk
8
10th
News.
grader admitted today in court that he killed his parents because he was angry over routine punishments like taking away his iPod.
Today, his grandfather came to court to forgive him. Investigator Mike Mather first told you about this case yesterday and has this follow-up story.
Vincent Parker, an honor roll student and artist at Norview High School, told police he just got mad and went off. A week before Christmas, he killed both his parents by hacking at them with knives and bashing them with a baseball bat and a crowbar. He told investigators he was fed up with what seemed like routine discipline for a teenager. I just remember getting mad, he told them. It's all from my dad. All this stuff like my dad taking away my iPod and stuff. It was his mother he attacked first at their Bland Street home. When she came out of the bathroom, he doused her with pepper spray, stabbed her in the eye, and beat her in the face with the bat and the crowbar. The medical examiner identified 25 separate wounds to her neck, face, and head. Carol Parker died in her bedroom. Later, when Vincent's father came home, he attacked him too, with a crowbar and with a knife. The father lived long enough to tell police what happened. But exactly why a talented honor student who wanted to be a police officer reacted so violently to ordinary punishment, that's a mystery to his family.
He is a smart young man. Yeah, he is smart in school. Don't know what happened.
Even though Vincent is just 16, he will be sentenced as an adult in September. What do you want to happen to your grandson when he is sentenced? What is
I want him to get some type of counseling, help him to grow up to be a understanding man, and that be sorry for what he did do. And I told him to ask God to forgive him for what he did.
In Norfolk, Mike Matthew, News Channel 4.
Yeah, she's right here. That's who needs to be removed, right here. Jasmine Jones. No, somebody said that she walking past him.
Okay, I'm out to play today. I'm out my, let me get my pen.
I think she in, which grade you in? 11th grade? 11th grade. I'm in there. All right. Are you okay? You know how you get it? Fine.
You in here, right? What fucking thing is this? What, bitch? I'm not fucking playing with you. I'm not playing. What? 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 Let me know. Yeah, let me know.
The Baltimore City teacher is on administrative leave. A student is facing charges after a fight inside a school is caught on camera. Officials say this started as a verbal confrontation, but then turned physical. 11 News reporter George Lettis is live at school headquarters in East Baltimore with the video and reaction. George?
Stan, the questions you may ask yourself when you watch this video are, is this teacher completely to blame, or is this a teacher who reached her limit of tolerance for a student who sources say was the instigator? In the hallway of Carver Vocational Technical High School last Friday, the teacher in the light-colored shirt on the left charges at the female student on the right. You can hear the teacher say, "I'll kill you in here," with some expletives thrown in. Someone else starts recording from a different angle, showing the fight continue with the teacher grabbing the student and slamming her into the lockers. And it appears the teacher grabs the student's hair and doesn't let go.
She got a job to do. That's what she get paid to do, is to teach, not to fight. She's supposed to act professional, not like a student or like a young hopper or something. She's supposed to act like a teacher, not no young student out here, you know. That's more, Carver School is more professional than that. I don't understand why they got that going on in there.
But let's take you inside the classroom before things spilled out into the hallway. Sources tell 11 News the class was taking a test, and the teacher told the student to get off her phone. The student then slings a sliding chair in the direction of the teacher, and then slams an object onto a desk while yelling at the teacher and storming out. Then into the hallway, this happens. The student hurls a book at the teacher, and things get physical. This Carver student defends the teacher.
I don't know. The student shouldn't have did that, but the teacher wasn't wrong for hitting the back because it was self-defense.
Would you be the bigger person and you handle it in a professional way? That's what I got to say.
City Schools sent this statement, quote, "The teacher was treated for injuries and has been placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of external and internal investigations. The student, a minor, was charged with assault and released to a parent." And the student's relatives declined to comment tonight, and attempts to reach the teacher were unsuccessful. We're live at City School headquarters.
Have a classroom confrontation that will shock and anger you. A teacher shoved and tossed to the ground by a student nearly twice her size during a fight over a cell phone. New tonight, Local 2's Jennifer Bauer spoke with that teacher and joins us live. Jen?
You know, Dominique, we did speak with that teacher, and she didn't want to go on camera. We respected her wishes because she's been through so much. The district tells us she is very shaken by everything that happened.
A classroom confrontation caught on camera. Watch as the student in the red shirt pushes the teacher once, twice, then a third push sends her to the ground backwards. And new tonight, we're getting a look at the confrontation from another angle. Police are using these videos, most of them posted to the social media site Instagram, to investigate the incident. They tell us the student, a 6'3", 325-pound 16-year-old, has been charged with injury to the elderly. Police say he was upset because the teacher tried to take his cell phone away. Students tell Local 2 she left in a neck brace and was taken to the hospital. We spoke to her and she tells us she is fine, she's at home and resting. People who have seen this video are outraged and they're talking about it online. On Facebook, someone wrote, "Wow, it's getting worse and worse. These kids don't have any respect for anybody anymore." And another person said, "This is awful. The students cheering are just as bad as the students shoving the teacher."
It upset me. Most people were laughing. I didn't find it funny. You can't just go and push on her like that.
And that student's name has not been released because he's a minor. We're live tonight. I'm Jennifer Bauer, KPRC, Local 2.
Jen, it was shocking to me to see this video and to notice that not one student stood up and tried to help that teacher. Everybody is sitting there with their cell phones. Did she say anything about that to you?
You know, Dominique, we only spoke briefly. We didn't get to talk about that, but I can tell you I spoke to a couple of students out here in the high school, and they were just as equally upset as you are. You know, they say this teacher is a substitute teacher. She's a retired teacher who used to work at this school. So a lot of these students say they have known her for a long time. They were very shocked and saddened as well.
Well, it was disheartening to see.
Two Detroit teens go at each other during class at Pershing High School. As you can see, it was an extremely violent altercation.
So why is their teacher the one who's being punished? Fox's Mariel Lewis live in the newsroom now with more on why the teacher was fired. Mariel.
Well, the teacher used a broom to break up the fight, so it goes without saying that that was wrong. But it's a different world. School violence is at an all-time high, and this was a female teacher who lacked the physical strength to pull her students apart. Now, she could have kept waiting for security to show up, but as you'll see on this video, the fight was growing more and more violent by the second. If this is what high school fights are like now, then times have certainly changed. This was a fight at Pershing High School on Wednesday. The entire classroom becomes a boxing ring. Desks and chairs fly across the room as these students deliver blow after brutal blow. Kyron Lores is the kid on top.
I asked him, was he looking for me? He got up, swung on me, then we got the fight. She was my favorite teacher and all that, and then she just got to hit me with the broom.
The fight lasted a full 33 excruciating seconds before someone did something. The teacher, heard screaming stop on camera, grabbed a broom and hit Kyron in the back.
He had one right here up on his shoulder. He had one going across like this. Like going across, he had one on his arm.
Pershing High School has a reputation for gang violence, but the school's policy on teacher conduct is clear, labeling this child abuse. The teacher was fired. Pershing is in the EAA system, low-performing schools now controlled by the state. EAA schools don't have unions, so this teacher has no grounds to file an appeal.
I don't think that the rules have accounted for the change in the culture, the change in the structure of our societies within our communities, and the realities, the context in which our teachers are operating.
Keith Johnson, president of the Detroit Federation of Teachers, represents teachers from Detroit Public Schools. He says this teacher was wrong for using a broom.
I understood what the teacher's motive was to get the two young men, who are two nice-sized young men, to separate or disengage. Unfortunately, the method that she used in terms of swatting one with a broom is a violation of the corporal punishment provision under the Michigan School Code. But she's caught in a quandary because under that same code, she's expected to do what is necessary to diffuse a situation.
A rep from Pershing's communications office says teachers were instructed during orientation to call for security on their walkie-talkies. But Fox 2 has learned this teacher's walkie-talkie wasn't working.
It shows the importance of having a union to represent you, because certainly if she was not adequately equipped in order to gain access to security or assistance, then we would have held the district equally accountable for not making sure they gave her a serviceable walkie-talkie or other means of communication.
As for the students, both were suspended for 10 days. Then it's back to school. Kyron says that's where he belongs, and there's no place for teacher on student violence. Do you feel like this is your fault?
No, I don't feel like it's my fault. She is my favorite teacher. I think it could have went the other way around. She could have called for the security, waited for the security to get there, but she ain't wait. So I think that's who she deserves.
Now, I have to say, this student demonstrated a real lack of remorse and understanding of the domino effect his actions caused. As for the teacher, losing her job is not the worst of it. Legally, Pershing High School is required to alert Child Protective Services. Then they will conduct an investigation and determine if this teacher will be charged with child abuse. Monica.
Well, Marielle, the teacher tried to call for help, as you said, but her walkie-talkie wasn't working. Obviously, she needed some sort of backup. What is the principal saying that she should have done in this situation to try to get that fight diffused?
And the interesting thing here is that the school acknowledged that her walkie-talkie wasn't working, but she's also not allowed to leave the kids alone. Now, the principal says that the teacher should have gone to the doorway and yelled for help in the hallway for another teacher to go and get help, or flag down a security guard who may or may not have been nearby.
And we begin with a
time.
very disturbing story of a teenager murdered. The suspects in the crime are teens themselves. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Don Teague.
And I'm Melinda Spalding. It's one of the most shocking and disturbing murder cases in recent memory for the Houston area. Police say a 15-year-old girl was brutally raped and murdered by two teenage boys who wanted to sell their souls to Satan. Fox 26's Randy Wallace joins us live right now from the League City Alternative School, where all three teens attended. Randy.
Melinda, even a veteran reporter like me is finding this horrific case difficult to fathom. One Clear Path Alternative High School student, a 15-year-old girl, is dead. Two other students from this school are accused in her murder. They're accused of attacking her so brutally, we can't share all the details with you. The alleged motive will make your jaw drop. Prosecutors say 15-year-old Corianne Cervantes voluntarily went to this vacant Clear Lake apartment with two classmates, 17-year-old Jose Reyes and a 16-year-old friend.
What Mr. Reyes says is he had sold his soul to the devil. The juvenile inquired, because he knew that he had, that if he committed a murder, would that basically initiate him into being able to sell his soul to the devil, of which Mr. Reyes said yes.
What happened to Cervantes last Wednesday in that vacant apartment, law officers say, is unthinkable.
During the course of this event, the victim, this teenager, screamed, "Why are you doing this to me?" and attempted to run from the apartment.
But it was too late to run, prosecutors say. The girl's final moments were too horrendous and shocking to give all the details on TV.
She had been brutalized and murdered. She had suffered trauma to her head.
After being beaten with a toilet lid and an ashtray, prosecutors say Cervantes was sexually attacked with various objects.
There was an upside-down crucifix that was carved in her stomach.
The exact cause of death is unknown. Medical examiners are trying to determine that, along with which injuries are pre-mortem and which are post-mortem. It was Reyes' own family members, law officers say, that led them to him.
They discussed the fact that Mr. Reyes had sold his soul to the devil, and if they ended up killing this teenager, this would allow the 16-year-old to also sell his soul to the devil.
Since Reyes is 17, a capital murder conviction would not land him on death row. A life sentence would mean he would be eligible for parole in 30 years. It's not known if prosecutors plan to seek adult certification for the 16-year-old. Police say they don't know why the girl was targeted for this. Police also say they know of no satanic cult happening at this school. And at this point, they say they don't know if Reyes was actually in a satanic cult or if it only existed in his head. Reporting live from League City, Randy Wallace, Fox
A fight between girls
News.
at a high school in Taylor gets out of control. A parent says her daughter was viciously attacked, and the school did nothing to help her before or during the melee.
That girl ended up in the hospital with injuries to her head. Fox News' Randy Wimbley has more from the victim.
The victim and her mother says all of this could have been avoided had the school simply taken their concerns about bullying seriously. Now, we have to warn you, the video you're about to see could be considered extremely graphic.
I just thought I was about to die until somebody jumped in.
Alexis Carter was punched, kicked, and beaten with a lock.
I started bleeding so bad, and I was still fighting while I'm bleeding like that.
It happened Monday morning at Truman High School in Taylor. The painful ordeal made all the more humiliating because students recorded it on their cell phones.
How many girls attacked you?
I don't even, like 4 or 5.
The beating was so severe, Alexis suffered a concussion and received 14 surgical staples to her head.
I couldn't believe that kids did this. I couldn't believe that these were girls that actually, how much hate do you have to have for a girl to you could have killed her.
Her mother, Tequila Carter, is furious because she claims Alexis warned an assistant principal that she was being bullied and feared this would happen.
I talked to her probably like 2 weeks before this happened, and I told her that I'm having problems with a girl and I don't want to get in trouble.
That principal's alleged response?
There's nothing that I can do unless they start fighting. She can't take any action against these girls. I felt like that was a load of crap because she could have spoke with both girls. She could have called me in. She could have called the other girls' parents in.
Now they're all suspended indefinitely, including Alexis. Tequila fears the suspension will harm her daughter's grades and college scholarship opportunities. Taylor Public School says it takes all claims of bullying seriously and is investigating the fight. Alexis says she threw the first punch when her bully approached her wanting to fight Monday. She claims the girl is bigger than her and was determined to square off.
I couldn't run. It was going to happen anyway. I would have got through it that day. Then the next day when I got back to school, it would have happened. If it wasn't that day, it would have been the next day. It was going to happen.
Alexis Carter will have to appear before the school board, which will decide whether or not she will be expelled. Her mother, in the meantime, plans on pressing charges against the girls who beat up her daughter. Randy Wimbley, Fox 2 News.
In high definition. Good evening, I'm Jonathan Martinez.
And I'm Neely Jones. Thanks for joining us tonight. A local mother trying to keep kids out of the hands of abusers.
Her journey started over a year ago when she decided to put a nanny cam inside her home, and it captured what no parent would ever want to see.
KNW's Channing Barker joining us now with more on one woman's fight. Channing?
Hey, good evening, guys. One word to describe Whitney Matney: resilient. And like the definition, she's taking a parent's worst nightmare that is now her worst nightmare and turning it into a mission.
I just laid awake in bed thinking, where did I go wrong? Why didn't I see it? Why didn't I catch this sooner?
In 2012, a law student with a working husband, Whitney Matney, needed a babysitter. Melissa Medema, a high school classmate, offered to watch Whitney's 1-year-old daughter, Rayleigh. Kisses. And Whitney says there were problems from the beginning.
I took Rayleigh into her room, and as I was crossing the doorway into her room, she started screaming and hanging on to me.
Whitney passed it off as separation anxiety, but says the behavior continued.
Every time that Melissa would ring the doorbell, Rayleigh would start screaming and crying and cling to us.
She started seeing other things that made her worry too.
She had one of the most horrific diaper rashes I have ever seen in my life. There were sores all over. It was almost like she was having to scrape the feces off of her bottom because she had just been sitting in them so long.
So Whitney decided it was time to order a hidden nanny cam. This is what she found after just 24 hours.
She walks into the living room, looks up at the TV, and just starts violently shaking her side to side. And then she drops her from a standing position. I had to watch it 2 or 3 times before it actually registered. Yeah, this is really happening.
The nanny cam recorded several sequences before Melissa found it and turned it toward the wall. But that was enough for Whitney.
We grabbed Rayleigh and we were trying to hug her, and I was apologizing to her because I immediately was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I put her in this situation. And I called the police and I told them that they needed to get there immediately. The police officer told me, if you hadn't caught this when you did, there's no doubt in my mind that you would have come home and not had a baby anymore.
Melissa was arrested 2 days later. Now, a year later, she is in the Benton County Jail after pleading guilty to a Class D felony. She will serve 88 days.
It's the lowest level of felony.
Stephanie McLemore prosecuted the case. She says she couldn't try Melissa for a more serious crime because Rayleigh wasn't hurt.
We have to be able to prove an actual injury in order to fit one of the battery statutes. And thankfully here, she didn't have an actual injury.
That doesn't sit well with Whitney.
I wanted her to be charged with attempted murder.
So the Matneys are working with state legislators to better track abusers. Arkansas has a confidential child maltreatment registry, but Whitney says it requires a lot of red tape, paperwork, and money, making it hard to use.
For somebody, some parents who just want to, again, say they're interviewing somebody to be a nanny, it's not the most easily accessible.
State Representative Greg Leding and State Senator John Woods working across the aisle, already passing Act 1503.
And the legislation that we ultimately passed does not establish this registry, but it did pull together some groups to study the development and implementation of such a registry, and they're going to report back to us on September 2014.
A mom on a mission, using the state government for change.
She's really not letting this just be a negative chapter in their life. They're using it to do something positive that will hopefully prevent other children from being abused and neglected.
So other families don't have to suffer crimes like this one.
We can hopefully give parents some way to kind of ensure the safety of their children.
We did reach out to Melissa Medema for an interview, and she declined. We also reached out to her lawyer, Herb Southern, and he declined as well. He did not return any of our phone calls. Now, if you suspect child abuse is happening in your own home or someone you know, you are urged to call police or a DHS hotline.